In 2020, a secret network used by drug traffickers and arms dealers became the target of the most daring and risky law enforcement operation in history. What happened next shook the criminal world to its core. For years, criminals had used an encrypted platform called EncroChat to coordinate their illicit operations, believing their communications were secure and impenetrable. It was the perfect tool for criminals who needed to stay under the radar, until one phone call would change everything. Operation Venetic was an unprecedented law enforcement initiative that forever altered the landscape of criminal investigations. This operation, spanning multiple countries and coordinated with intelligence agencies like Europol, sought to infiltrate one of the most secure communication networks used by criminals. What began as a risky technical operation would eventually lead to the largest drug smuggling bust the UK had ever seen, dismantling a network responsible for trafficking millions of pounds worth of illicit drugs and weapons. At the heart of this operation was not just technology, but international cooperation and an unyielding determination to bring down the criminal networks that had flourished in the digital age. The implications of Operation Venetic went far beyond just the bust itself. It exposed the true power of encryption, the evolving nature of criminal tactics, and the incredible lengths law enforcement must go to in order to stay ahead. This is the story of how Operation Venetic unfolded, the challenges faced by the investigators, and the profound impact it had on organized crime across the UK and beyond. Before Operation Venetic could begin, law enforcement had to understand the powerful tool that allowed criminals to flourish: EncroChat. Launched in 2017, EncroChat was marketed as an encrypted messaging platform, promising to protect user communications from interception by authorities. With end-to-end encryption and an added panic button that could wipe all data from a device in an instant, the platform quickly gained popularity within criminal circles. For these criminals, EncroChat was more than just a messaging service. It was a lifeline. From drug trafficking to arms smuggling, criminals felt secure knowing their conversations could not be traced. Users could send secure messages, make voice calls, and even share images, all protected by military-grade encryption. For organized crime groups, it was the perfect tool to coordinate complex operations, move illicit finances, and maintain cross-border connections. By 2019, EncroChat had become integral to the operations of UK-based criminal groups, facilitating the distribution of Class A drugs like heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines. These criminals were no longer restricted to outdated methods of communication. They were staying one step ahead of law enforcement, utilizing sophisticated digital tools to operate undetected. But what these criminals didn't know was that their sense of security was a false one. As EncroChat's popularity surged, it caught the attention of law enforcement across Europe, who began devising strategies to infiltrate this seemingly impenetrable network. Little did they know, the very technology they relied on for protection would soon be their undoing. The discovery of EncroChat's role in facilitating major crimes prompted law enforcement agencies to act swiftly. The encrypted messaging service was enabling organized crime groups to carry out their operations with near impunity, but gaining access to the platform was no simple task. In 2020, the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, in collaboration with French authorities and Europol, launched Operation Venetic. This operation aimed to infiltrate EncroChat's encrypted system and begin gathering evidence against the criminal organizations that were using it. The operation required a delicate mix of technical expertise, secrecy, and international cooperation. Law enforcement officials worked tirelessly for months to develop a strategy that would allow them to breach the encrypted messages flowing between criminals. The breakthrough came with the development of a sophisticated malware designed to infiltrate EncroChat's encryption. It was a high-risk move, one that could either expose the criminal network or collapse the entire operation. Once deployed, the malware would have the potential to reveal everything. Law enforcement had to develop a custom hacking tool capable of infiltrating the system, capturing encrypted messages, and interpreting the data in real time. This allowed investigators to monitor not just text messages, but voice calls and multimedia exchanges, offering a rare window into the heart of criminal enterprises. The stakes were incredibly high. Would the breach of such a secure system hold up in court? Could the intercepted data be used as evidence? These questions loomed large as law enforcement carefully tested the malware, ensuring its deployment wouldn't compromise the operation's integrity. As authorities in multiple countries began intercepting and decoding thousands of encrypted messages, they uncovered a vast network of criminal activities, from drug shipments to to violent acts of retribution to money laundering schemes. The operation was a race against time. Every second, encrypted messages were flowing across the network, giving criminals new opportunities to evade capture. But law enforcement had already begun to track the flow of illicit activities, and the pressure was mounting as they closed in on the key players. Once EncroChat was successfully infiltrated, law enforcement discovered the scale of the operation they were facing. The intercepted messages revealed one of the most expansive drug trafficking rings ever uncovered in the UK. The syndicate was vast, operating across international borders and distributing enormous quantities of heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines throughout Europe and the UK. The reach of this network was global. Drugs were smuggled from high-risk production zones, transported through intricate smuggling routes, and hidden within legitimate cargo or specially designed compartments in vehicles. Law enforcement learned that this criminal empire was capable of moving thousands of kilograms of narcotics across borders with astonishing precision and minimal detection. The key players in this network were individuals like Stephen Earle and Colin Wright, who used their connections in the underworld to control the production, distribution, and sale of illegal drugs. Earle was responsible for running methamphetamine production labs, while Wright orchestrated the trafficking of large quantities of heroin and cocaine. Their criminal empire spanned multiple countries, with secret drug production labs hidden in various locations and smuggling routes designed to evade detection by authorities. Earle's operations weren't limited to simple drug manufacturing. He also coordinated the setup of highly sophisticated methamphetamine labs capable of producing large quantities of the drug, which were then distributed across the UK and Europe. These labs were concealed in remote industrial locations, often camouflaged within unassuming facilities, making them incredibly difficult to detect. Wright, on the other hand, managed the logistics of heroin and cocaine trafficking, overseeing a vast network of operatives that ensured a steady flow of drugs into the UK. As more encrypted messages were decrypted, the full scope of the operation came into focus. These individuals weren't just trafficking drugs, they were running complex money laundering operations to hide the vast illegal profits generated by their activities. They funneled their illicit earnings through legitimate businesses, shell companies, and offshore accounts, effectively evading tax authorities and financial regulators. These methods, ranging from high-stakes casino transactions to cryptocurrency exchanges, made it even more difficult for authorities to track and seize their profits. In total, this syndicate was responsible for importing over $100 million worth of Class A drugs into the UK. The drugs were distributed across major cities, contributing to the escalating public health crisis linked to drug addiction. The scale of the operation was staggering, and it reached far beyond street-level transactions. It was a global criminal network with tentacles embedded deep within the urban fabric of the UK. Alongside the massive drug seizures, law enforcement also uncovered caches of firearms and other illegal weapons, pointing to the violent nature of the organization. These weapons were used to protect drug shipments, intimidate competitors, and maintain dominance over territories, ensuring that any challenges to their authority were swiftly eliminated. This discovery was a turning point for Operation Venetic. Not only had law enforcement successfully infiltrated a major encrypted network, but they had uncovered a sprawling criminal empire entrenched in both the illegal drug trade and violent crime. The sophistication of their operations, the sheer scale of their activities, and the number of individuals involved made this operation one of the most significant victories in the UK's ongoing fight against organized crime. As authorities rounded up key members of the syndicate, the legal proceedings were swift. The arrest of Colin Wright in Spain marked a critical moment in the operation. His capture was the result of a highly coordinated international effort, and his subsequent extradition to the UK allowed authorities to begin the formal process of prosecuting him for his involvement in the drug trafficking and money laundering operations. Once the arrests were made, law enforcement faced the daunting task of presenting the evidence collected from EncroChat in court. Given that the data had been intercepted through a covert malware installation, questions arose about the admissibility of the evidence. Lawyers defending the accused argued that breaching encrypted communication violated privacy laws, potentially rendering the evidence inadmissible. However, the prosecution was armed with compelling proof. They demonstrated that the intercepted data not only revealed the scale of the operation, but also provided an undeniable link between the messages and the criminal activities of the accused. The court accepted the evidence, acknowledging that it was vital to dismantling a criminal empire of such magnitude. Several key figures, including Wright and Earle, were convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The legal success of Operation Venetic sent a powerful message to criminal organizations using encrypted platforms to shield their operations. The failure to protect their communications had made them vulnerable to detection and arrest, changing the way criminals would operate moving forward. The success of Operation Venetic didn't just lead to high-profile convictions, it had a profound effect on organized crime across the UK. By dismantling one of the largest drug smuggling rings in the country, law enforcement significantly disrupted the flow of illegal drugs into the UK. The operation sent a powerful message to other criminal syndicates, demonstrating that even the most secure communication networks could be infiltrated, and no criminal organization was beyond the reach of law enforcement. Authorities reported a noticeable reduction in gang violence and drug-related crimes in areas previously impacted by these criminal groups. The seizure of large quantities of drugs prevented an untold amount of harm to local communities and alleviated some of the strain on public health services that were stretched thin by addiction-related issues. Additionally, neighborhoods that had long been plagued by drug violence began to see improvements in safety, with fewer shootings and less street-level trafficking. Despite this success, law enforcement acknowledges that the fight is far from over. While this operation dealt a significant blow to one of the UK's most dangerous criminal syndicates, there are always new threats emerging. Encrypted communication platforms continue to evolve, and criminals are constantly seeking new ways to evade detection. As law enforcement adapts to these new challenges, the cycle of crime and justice will continue, with ongoing efforts needed to protect communities and disrupt organized crime on an even larger scale. One of the defining features of Operation Venetic was the use of cutting-edge surveillance technology. By infiltrating EncroChat, law enforcement agencies gained unprecedented insight into criminal activities, marking a new era in digital crime fighting. However, this also raised significant ethical and legal concerns. The debate between privacy and security is more relevant than ever before. While many see operations like Operation Venetic as essential tools for combating criminal activity, others argue that intercepting encrypted communications infringes on personal privacy. Where do we draw the line between ensuring public safety and protecting individual rights? As technology continues to advance, these issues will become more complex. The future of digital surveillance will require a delicate balance between security and the protection of personal freedoms. Lawmakers and law enforcement agencies will need to navigate this evolving landscape carefully to ensure that justice is served without compromising the rights of individuals. Operation Venetic stands as one of the most successful and ambitious law enforcement initiatives in the fight against organized crime. By infiltrating EncroChat, law enforcement agencies were able to expose a vast criminal network, leading to over 3,100 arrests and the seizure of millions of pounds worth of drugs, firearms, and illicit cash. But as this operation has shown, the fight against organized crime is far from over. Criminal organizations will continue to adapt, and law enforcement must stay one step ahead. Cooperation, advanced technology, and an unwavering commitment to justice are the tools that will shape the future of crime fighting. This wraps up our story on Operation Venetic. We hope you enjoyed today's video and want to thank you for staying tuned to the very end. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit like and share for more Mafia Mystique content.